Welcome back, everyone. Now, we are keeping a very, very close eye, of course, on anything UK, given what we saw in gilts yesterday. And, of course, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Now, UK 30-year yields falling some 12 basis points, the biggest intraday drop since April. So we're keeping an eye on it. But a reminder, the Prime Minister did seem to give his full confidence in the Chancellor in a BBC interview late last night. Now, barely a day passes by without a big investor or a big entrepreneur leaving the UK after the government abolished a two-century tax break for non-domiciled residents. Now, the exodus could lead to a net drain on the economy, but my next guest believes these reports are missing a crucial indicator, and that's age. Well, joining us now is Raja Mekwar, Chief Executive of Calista Direct Investors, a firm that helps family offices to invest in private markets and alternative assets. So, Raja, thank you so much for joining us. Now, first of all, you're a believer in the UK. Why?
I'm a believer in London as a global hub for finance and private investments.
Okay, so that's a good start.
Yes.
Does anything change because of the non-dom rules?
Yes, of course. I mean, you know, money that made it, money that wants to look for something else than just hard work, has to look for a better shelter. But I think the UK lives this as a traumatic experience. If you look at France and other countries in Europe, they've been going through such motions for a while. And depending on what the governments do, wealth is very mobile. Wealth is flexible, but it doesn't mean that the actual capital, that the brain behind the capital has to leave. And I think that's where London still wins.
Raja, I mean, do you think that there's actually, there was, I don't know if there's a misunderstanding, but actually taxing, you know, non-doms on everything that they have abroad was the big problem. So it's the ultra wealthy that said, actually, I don't need this, I can move elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Do you think there'll be a U-turn on that?
Well, I hope so, but I'm not a politician, and I know I've been working and looking after family capital in private equity for 20 years, and that wealth looks after its money in a different way, you know, to any other asset owner. And the UK has been home for, you know, 2 generations at least, so it is traumatic. But honestly, a lot of the resources stay here. The brain power is still here. And actually, London is a hub for deal making, whether we like it or not, and that's why we opened an office here.
And why do you think that is? Is it, you know, the rule of law? It's always been seen almost like a satellite to the US, right?
Absolutely.
That it was a more mature market than some of the Central Europe.
That's a big factor. There's also the fact that there's critical mass here, and it's been here for so long. And I think London has been the home for private capital for so many years now. It was the first economy that also looked at private equity, although it's been caught up on by other countries. And what I see in my generation, a lot of people have left. But in the younger generation, they all look to London because there is no alternative in Europe.
And I guess, I mean, this is also universities. Is there anything that you would tell the government now to do to make sure that that doesn't change?
Well, I would say, you know, with Brexit, if you leave aside the non-dom abolition, I think Brexit has made hiring non-UK talent very difficult in London. Yeah. But just as it has made UK talent difficult to be hired in Europe, and we've experienced it both ways. So I think easing those rules for super talent, like we used to have these, you know, high potential migrant worker type of visas, that's very important. Because without talent, there is no wealth creation and there is no wealth.
Raja, I mean, when you see, and it's, you know, when you look at actually post-Brexit, there's more and more people leaving London for a number of reasons. So it could be tax, it could be non-doms. It feels like they're either going to New York, maybe a little bit less so at the moment because of some of the politics there, but certainly Dubai. Is there anywhere in Europe that's attracting talent?
I mean, look, Europe has become multi-hub. You know, there was even a time for startups, it was good to live in Lisbon or Barcelona or Madrid. But honestly, if you want to have a serious institutional career in private equity and investment banking, no one replaced London. I don't think it's going to happen overnight, especially also because the largest market is the US and the first port of call for Americans is London. And speaking of taxes, I mean, our wealthy American families, when they come to Europe, their playground is London, and they own homes here, and the tax rules don't apply to them. So I think we should nuance this, but for sure, I'm not saying it's good news, but it's a bit more nuanced. And I would say the generation that's coming up now, looking to work hard and make it, still look to London as their first port of call as well.
And is that, for the wealthy Americans, is that, you know, ease of language, but also rule of law, or is it something, or is it just the ecosystem that London has?
It's all of the above, and I would add something very important that we always overlook is the mindset, the way of work, the mentality. I mean, the bridge between New York and London is so easy to make if you just interact with people. If you go to Paris or Milan or Zurich, that changes very quickly.
When you say, that a lot of firms continue to open in London, including your own, is that again to test the market to then expand in Europe, or is it really just because London also has, the perfect time zone, it has a lot of benefits?
I think for Americans, it's the first port of call before maybe moving to other cities. But for us Europeans, it's really because we realize that a lot of the relationships for deal making transit through London, and so it's a good hub to come and centralize the meetings and create this kind of, critical mass of relationships and opportunities.
I mean, on the show we talk a lot about IPOs. When are we going to see a big IPO? Now there's talk about some of the big UK firms actually moving to the US because there's more of a liquid capital pool. Does that make a difference to your clients?
Well, family capital is long-term capital. It's also flexible capital. Yeah. So we look to exit, of course, at some stage, but it doesn't matter if it's short-term or mid-term, and what matters the most is it the public market that's the better option, or can it be other types of exits? I don't think that's a primary factor for decision-making of where you actually invest your money and where from.
So interesting. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Raja Mekawar, Chief Executive at Calista Direct Investors. Coming up, we discuss the latest in tech and VC investing.